Okay, I just have you on the speaker for now.
Okay.
Okay?
Put you through to the board and we can do our audio check really quick, okay?
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A mother and a daughter at total January 6th. How Donald Trump's election fraud may updated their laws. Trump was fixing. Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great.
All right, we are coming up shortly here. We'll get Reverend Jackson, or Reverend Al. Professional Reverend Johnson.
Okay.
On the line, okay?
All right, hon. Thanks so much.
President of the United States, Harvey Hughes, her daughter appeared at the hearing and reported death threats and other harassment. Dang right. Be glad it's 2020 and not 1920. Raven says the FBI urged her to leave her home for the January 6th certification of Biden's win. She did. Back on Washington. And I live home like 18 minutes. This is 8:20 a.m. WCPG Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPG820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPG 820 Chicago. Okay, Reverend Johnson is on the line. Would you like me to
Yes.
open the show?
Yes.
The traffic is stopped from Florence. Okay.
Yep, yep. Perfect. Thank you, hon.
A major overnight crash. We're looking at an hour and 5 minutes to get from DeSoto Lakeshore Drive to the Veterans Memorial Tollway. Inbound trip time is now 37 minutes. Stop and go delays from the Des Plaines River Bridge to Central. Inbound Kennedy. Trip time will air downtown is 18 minutes, outbound 20 miles an hour. A little heavier now, 25 minutes in from 390, outbound 24. Inbound Ryan. Traffic slows 79 to 71st when approaching downtown in 13 minutes in from 95th. I-57 has roadwork delays approaching 30 and approaching I-80. Station 4 inbound, got about a 3-minute delay from 111 Urge. That's traffic. I'm Jim Alamonte. The Rick Fit Show, live weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. What's amazing is how quickly Joe Biden has brought the world together. The Rick Fit Show on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk. My name is Joseph Michael Carr, and I'm running for state rep in the 25th District. 25th District is my home.
Okay, Pastor, how are you?
I care about my neighbors and want to see my district.
I'm doing great, thanks.
For families facing economic hardship, I believe housing
do
is a
this.
basic right. Everyone should be able to afford a place to live in dignity. I support access to early detection of mental illness because that is the cause of so much pain in our community.
Okay. You need to make sure you can hear her, Matt. And you need to know what I want to open. Which clip? Okay, which clip do you have for? Well, we'll go over the clip that I want you to open the show with. For sure. Do you have? Do you have any? I don't feel safe. There's nowhere. No place I feel safe.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
Do you have from Shay Moss? There's no place I feel safe.
I do.
Let's open up the show with that. After we do we can change the world.
Okay. No place I feel safe after change the world.
Yep.
Copy that.
Thank you.
Just a couple.
I know.
About 15 seconds here.
Okay, fantastic.
This is Justice White, the Secretary of State. Please put 177 Deidre Bowman on June the 28th. WCPT 820, where facts matter. This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey everybody. Got a clip I want you to hear off the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Matt M., take it away.
Because a group of people, starting with number 45,
and his ally, Rudy Giuliani, decided to scapegoat me and my daughter, Shay, to push their own lies about how the presidential election was stolen. There is nowhere I feel safe. Nowhere. Do you know how it feels to have the President of the United States to target you? The President of the United States is supposed to represent every American, not to target one. But he targeted me, Lady Ruby, a small business owner, a mother, a proud American citizen who stand up to help Fulton County run an election in the middle of the pandemic.
Wow, there it is. Mrs. Ruby Moore and her daughter Shay Moss, Georgia election workers. We're going to be talking about that today. What did you make of the hearings yesterday? Of course, you heard from the Secretary of State of Arizona, who had a daughter who was gravely ill, who eventually died right after the riots. A couple of weeks later, God bless that family. A Republican who voted for Donald Trump, who said, look, I love you, but I can't do that. What about these black women who were targeted, who were basically welfare queened, if you will, called hustlers by President Trump and all of that? Yeah, welfare queened. That's what happened to them as they were trying to serve. They were lied on. And Mayor Giuliani told Arizona officials, we just don't have the evidence. Quote, of voter fraud. They knew they were lying. At least his advisors did. So let's talk about that today. What did you think of this compelling testimony that we saw yesterday? First, we're going to be talking about the Georgia elections, which have national consequences as we watch the Herschel Walker, Raphael Warnock, Herschel Walker race. They're in a dead heat right now. How can that be? We're going to break that down. Stacey Abrams is trailing Brian Kemp. Can she come from behind? She can. But she's always positioned herself as a moderate. Does that mean anything to you? Let's talk about all of this on the Santita Jackson Show today. And of course, we'll be talking about long COVID and the impact of that. Indeed, women are more likely to suffer or have to live with long COVID than men. Interesting. Dr. Shanina Knighton will be answering your questions. Any thoughts you have about COVID or just your health concerns, please reach out to us. I'm Santita Jackson, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson YouTube channel. The Santita Jackson YouTube channel. We have a lot of great conversations over there. I try to keep up, and I'm trying to keep up with this show too. And Santita Jackson and Friends, everybody. Santita Jackson and Friends. Let's talk today. That's, of course, my official Facebook page, and I want you to please become my friend over there. Let's talk. We got a lot to deal with today, and I want to know what you thought about the hearings yesterday. You saw how, on a personal level, these people tried to conduct a citizen's arrest on Shay Moss's family. A citizen's arrest, where they just, broke down the door. They didn't break down the door, but they forced their way into their homes. I mean, it's kind of like Breonna Taylor, when you kind of get killed. Everybody, please like the show. All of my people like the show today. It's just the sheer unmitigated gall that people felt that they had the right to go into these women's homes. Got to talk about that today on the Santita Jackson Show. Okay, everybody, it's going to be a nice summer day in Chicago. 82 degrees, partly cloudy. At Minneapolis, St. Paul, 86 degrees. It will be bright and sunny. The Dow closed up 641 points. The NASDAQ closed up 270 points. And the S&P 500 closed up 89 points. In Major League Baseball, the White Sox came on through. The White Sox 7, the Blue Jays 6. The Cubs, they fell to the Pirates. The Pirates 7, the Cubs 1. The Guardians overtook the Twins just by a run, 6-5. In the NHL, the Avalanche will be playing the Lightning tonight. Who's going to get that Stanley Cup? We don't know yet. WNBA, a lot of activity. And Chicago and Minneapolis have a lot to celebrate today. The Lynx 84, The Mercury 71 and the Sky 100 for the Aces. 95, everybody. If you're among the millions of Americans who are waiting on your tax return from 2021, guess what? CNN reports good news. The IRS announced it will finally finish processing last year's tax return backlog this week. I think your money might be coming, everybody. The primary season continued yesterday. Yeah, the District of Columbia, Georgia, um, with more elections in Alabama and Virginia. That's right. That's what happened yesterday. In Alabama, Katie Britt, who was endorsed by former President Donald Trump, became the state's Republican candidate for Senate, according to CNN projections. Of course, President Trump had initially endorsed Representative Mo Brooks, but withdrew that support in March after Brooks made comments urging Trump supporters to move past the 2020 election. The Senate on Tuesday cast a key vote to advance newly released bipartisan gun safety legislation, a major step moving the bill forward as lawmakers face pressure to respond to the recent string of mass shootings. And you do know that the AR-15 now is a pistol. Yes, it has been perfected, if you will. Perfected, yes, perfected. It is no longer a big gun that you tote around. It is a pistol that you can keep in your pocket, everybody. So, these are some of the headlines today, but let's get right to you, Pastor Vicki Johnson. We need to get some good news. I hope to see you over at the Rainbow Push Coalition Conference. Of course, we saw Stanley Davis and so many of you over there, and I hope you've had a good time. It's been wonderful being over at the South Shore Cultural Center today. Our highlight will be the Women's International Luncheon, founded by Mrs. Jackson, by my mother, after her trips to the Middle East in the late 70s. And then as she continued to take trips in advance of Reverend Jackson in Nicaragua and places all over the world. And she said, it's time for all women from all over the world to come together. And it was a glorious occasion, man. It's the biggest event that we have. In fact, it started off, as you recall, Reverend Johnson with a fashion show, fashions that women wore all over the world, and then a brilliant keynote from a woman activist from some hotspot in the world. It's changed a bit down through the years, but that is the history of it. Hope to see you there at 12 o'clock today. Pastor Vicki Johnson, St. Thomas Lutheran Church at 80th and Jeffrey here in Chicago. What is the good news?
Well, good morning, Santita, and good morning to all of your morning stars and friends. There is good news. Do you remember hearing this? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I have no idea where the origin of this saying came from, but this is one of the biggest lies ever told. The first part of this age-old saying is true. Sticks and stones can do physical harm to us that our bodies usually heal from. But words can have a lasting ill effect. It can affect us mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. How many times has someone called you a name and it hurt your feelings? When I was a girl, I was very skinny. So my elementary school friends gave me a nickname that I had to live with well into high school. They called me Bones. They called me Bones because I was nothing but skin and bones. I knew they liked me and really didn't mean any harm, but it still hurt. We never fought. They never threw sticks or stones at me, but their words hurt me. There's power in the spoken word. Our words have the power to create things that we desire, as well as those things we don't want. Therefore, we must be mindful of how we use our words. Speak life. Speak healing. Speak a word for peace in your life, world, and affairs. And speak the same into the lives of others. Yesterday, I had to take my husband to the hospital for a scheduled surgery. On the way to the hospital in the car, we talked about how kind and caring everyone had been to him through all of the pre-op procedures he went through. When we arrived at the hospital at 6:45 a.m. in the morning, after listening to the Santita Jackson show, the first person that greeted us with a smile and kind words. But the very next person may have had a bad night, and it was reflected in her speech. I started to make mention of this to my husband, but immediately reprimanded myself because those were not the kinds of words he needed to hear as he was preparing for surgery. So I chose to focus on the positive. Know that words can hurt you and those around you. Just look at the words of 45, how they have divided this nation even more than before, resulting in an insurrection on January 6, 2021, and criminalizing election workers. So think twice before you speak. Use your words to bless. Use your words to heal. Use your words to prosper. If you will do this, and I believe that you will, then to me, that's good news.
Amen to that. Amen. Amen. I like that very much. It made me a little contemplative, I have to say. Because one thing I will say about my father is he does not speak negatively. You know that about him. That's one of his hallmarks. And he is always looking for, he doesn't have to look for it. He always sees the sunny side. For him, the glass is half full. My mother's more of a critic. And there's nothing wrong with that because they balance each other out. But she can catch a flaw. He goes past the flaws. So there's space for, for all of that. But that was very wise. Because these are things for you not to have spoken any of that negativity into your husband's ear, as he is about to be as vulnerable as he can be in surgery, because that is what you are. You don't have the control. The doctor does. Somebody outside of your body has control of your body. For you to say, you know what? Wait a minute. God told you that don't do that. We will stay lifted up and just laugh about this and keep on going because we're going to get through this. How's your husband, by the way?
His surgery was successful. He had a TAVR procedure to open up a blocked heart valve, and it was successful. Thank God.
Praise God for that. Praise God. Please give him our love. We send our love to you. To you, just very quickly before I move on to Dr. Knighton. Clearly your mind was elsewhere. But when we look at Shay Moss and Lady Ruby, Mrs. Ruby Moore, her mother, I said, the hits on Black women, they just never stop, Pastor Johnson. They just never stop. I said they were welfare queens, it was a lot to absorb, And I want to know how people are reacting to it today. You know what I mean? It was just, oof. It was a lot. It was a lot to absorb. That's why I said I think we need to talk about that. And, compare and contrast because the fact is he went after these supporters of his who would not do former President Trump what he wanted them to do. But that's also the nature of power. I want everyone to understand that piece too. Not making excuses for anyone, but I want you to know in power, this is how this is. And sadly, Ruby Moore and Shay Moss now know how Dr. King felt. And so many people who have stood in the gap for freedom. This is how it goes. How about that? But it's striking to me that neither the Democrats nor the Republicans offered them security. The FBI just told them you need to get out of your house. You're not going to offer them security? Really? You know who's doing this. Pastor Vicky. Very quickly, we can.
The continued injustices of our society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why you must get involved with your organizations and you must be active. Don't just come to these organizations when you need help from them. You need to get involved because the injustice is coming your way when you're not even looking. When you're not even looking. When I was a child, people used to say awful things to me about my father when I was in school and elsewhere. And then I'd get to the office and find their parents at the office because they needed their parents, who had obviously fed this to their children, needed my father to save their job, and he would do that. So, he felt that was his, I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. Everybody, I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, sending you much love. And what time could we meet you at 80th and Jeffrey at the St. Thomas Lutheran Church on Sunday?
11:45 a.m. each Sunday for an hour of power at St. Thomas Lutheran Church here in Chicago on 80th and Jeffrey Boulevard.
Amen. I love it. We love you, Pastor Vicky Johnson. For that good news. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can hurt you. Watch what you say. Watch what you think. Dr. Shanina Knighton, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I am doing fine. I'm doing fine. Just, I'm so glad that the heat has calmed down, at least for today. But, I have a question for you. What about the heat? I found myself needing water, much more water. I mean, just like it's almost as if every glass I had was like a lifesaver. And I said, maybe I'm thirstier than I thought. I've been moving around so much over the past week. I haven't been able to get in. It's been hard for me to get in I try to drink a gallon of water a day. That's what I try to do. And I felt it because I didn't have enough water. What about heat stroke? I mean, what is heat stroke? Is it confined to, say, people who are older, or can it happen to anyone?
Heat stroke can happen to anyone. And sadly enough, not enough people really think about that. And they say to themselves, I want to be out in the sun, right? So we don't think about the detriments of that. Meaning people will be out, and it can happen to kids too, right? So think about them wanting to be out and then literally not just playing, right? Mm-hmm. Their body is like they're hot, but they're not like, let's say, sweating enough. So they're outside. They don't have like any water. They don't have any relief of shade or a cool place, right? Like things like that typically someone may not pay attention to. And that's why even too, like as parents, or even for like somebody that's a caregiver to an older adult, it's really being aware of what does the weather look like? Am I sitting in the sun all day? Like what are those things that could be putting me at risk? And oftentimes even too, like when you have people that go to the beach and they're out at the beach all day and it's sunny and they're enjoying themselves, what then happens, is someone getting into the water, eventually cooling themselves off. But before they even do that, to cool themselves off, they've already experienced, let's say some heat exhaustion, which is typically, that's when they would have, like, let's say the excessive sweating. So it's a difference between heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So with heat exhaustion, somebody might be feeling dizzy, they might be feeling faint, but they don't have like excessive sweating, and their palms might be like cool and clammy. They would experience like, let's say, nausea and vomiting, and their pulse, like they would have a fast pulse, but it would be weak. If you were to like literally try to like palpate it on their neck, on their carotid, or their carotid is like the artery that runs alongside both sides of the neck, or muscle cramping. And so the thing is, it's like that will be heat exhaustion. So heat stroke, that's somebody, they done lost consciousness, Like, yeah, they pulse is there, but it's strong. Their body temperature is actually high as if they got a fever. The sweating, they're no longer sweating. So, which means also too, like they possibly are having issues with dehydration, and they have a throbbing headache. So I'm giving some of the signs and symptoms of both, but the most important thing is of course, knowing that you and we are not meant to stay out in the sun all day without preventative measures. Meaning, we're not wearing sunscreen, if you don't have access to the shade, if we're not aware of what the peak temperatures are, meaning going outside in a 90-degree day where the sun is just beaming, and you thinking that you're going to stay out there for hours and hours and hours, but not having access to water. Water is one of the most important things. We have to think about it. We're sweating water out of our bodies for our bodies to stay cool and practice homeostasis, which is our body being stable essentially. You still want to make sure that you're getting water in, making sure that you're staying cool. And so I tell people that. Something else too, and I know that this comes up a lot, you have to remember people should not be keeping their pets in the car with the windows rolled up. They should not be keeping their kids in the car with the windows rolled up, with no air conditioning or anything on. And then even too, be aware of your groceries. So when we talk about, like, let's say, foodborne illnesses, and we talk about, people being sick, people might leave their food in the car, their groceries on a 90-degree day, saying I'm only stopping somewhere for 5 to 10 minutes. Well, that 5 to 10 minutes can actually change your food and can actually make it warmer, unthaw, and be at an unsafe temperature to where when you do go to cook it or consume it, they are sick. So we should just be aware of what's happening in that instance. And it sounds crazy, but even the trunk may be cooler than the car because the windows have access, to the sun. So it's just some things to think about, Santita. I know that many don't think about heat stroke or heat exhaustion in that manner, and we often don't think that we can be a victim of it, but we can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't just happen to the elderly, everybody. It can happen to you. So I want you to be careful because we have had a heat wave, and a wave goes out, it comes back in, it goes out, it comes back in. It's been extraordinarily warm over the past week and some change. And a lot of people have gotten very sick. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Okay, Linda, is the volume still too low?
Driving home with Matt.
Okay. Okay, let me know, Linda, if the volume is still too low. How you doing, Shanina?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well, sweetie. You do? Okay. And then you know what, Shanina, I'm gonna have to let you go because I'm gonna need that line. But we need. Girl, I'm just trying to get these people up. Love you, sweetie. But I'll talk with you. I just have to get through Tuesday. That's when we have the primary. My brother runs in this primary on Tuesday. Once I get through that, I can breathe a little bit. And this convention, which ends today. Oh, boy. Okay, the volume is good? Okay. Huh?
I said, well, that's awesome. And have an amazing show the rest of the show. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Absolutely. I can't wait.
Awesome. Talk to you soon.
Love you, sweetie. All right, y'all, here we go. Oh, Matt?
Yep.
The clip was fabulous. That clip was fabulous.
Yeah, thank you.
That clip was fabulous. That was fabulous.
Okay, nothing from Mrs. Perryman yet. I will keep trying, but I'll pull up the rest of our panel here.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. Chaparral?
Good morning, I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Santita. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Just waiting for this convention to wind down today. Go to the I'm gonna go to the luncheon for a little bit, then I'm gonna head on over to the campaign office, you know. That is what we need. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, thank you.
Right?
Yep, the primary is on Tuesday. So, you know, of course, the hits start coming. Lynn Sweet did an article on Jonathan. Apparently, there is a businessman, a billionaire, who poured $500,000 into ads that are supportive of Jonathan. But this is where you don't have control, because this is someone, you know, these people can either attack you or support you, and you don't have to know them. That's where this Citizens United decision. This is where you see the impact. You see what I mean? This is where you see the impact. Because of course, you know, when I saw the article, I called and said, "Okay, so what's going on here?" And he said, "This is when people choose you, and you don't choose them." He said, "I don't even know where this came from." But
Okay, we have just under a minute. I have
Okay.
Attorney Patillo and Mr. McKee on the line.
okay, Attorney Patillo, Robert.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey, sweetie, look, in this first segment, hey, Dwight, let me hear you, Dwight. Okay, very good. I'm just doing a sound check.
30 seconds.
Robert, as you can see in this first segment, what I want to do is talk about Georgia politics, because it has national implications, and who each of these candidates are. Okay?
Okay.
Just as you and I discussed. And Matt, please come back in with another clip.
Okay.
Thank you.
10 seconds.
Great, great, great. Thank you, Linda, for looking out.
Ms. Moss, how has this experience of being targeted by the former president and his allies affected your life?
Hurt my life upside down. I no longer give out my business card. I don't transfer calls. I don't want anyone knowing my name. I don't want to go anywhere with my mom because she might yell my name out over the grocery aisle or something. I don't go to the grocery store at all. Haven't been anywhere at all. I gained about 60 pounds. I just don't do nothing anymore. I don't want to go anywhere. I second guess everything that I do. Affect my life in a major way. Every way. All because of lies. Me doing my job. Same thing I've been doing forever. Change the world, change the world, change the world. Can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
And hate to pay for other countries. Gotta save children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please, everybody, like and subscribe there. And please like and share this show wherever you are, on YouTube or on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, I'm on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. And I want to hear your thoughts today on what we heard from the hearings, these January 6th hearings yesterday. 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Before we get into that, we're going to have Attorney Robert Patillo and Dwight McKee. So glad that they're with us this morning. And Robert Patillo in particular is going to talk to us about Georgia, these Georgia races that have national implications. Herschel Walker, the football great, is in a dead heat with the sitting Senator Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock. How did that happen? Stacey Abrams, even with all of the hopes that we have vested in her, she's trailing Brian Kemp. What has Brian Kemp done to maybe win some of the voters over in Georgia? And who is Stacey Abrams? What is her background? What are her politics? Got a lot to talk about on the Santita Jackson Show. But first, we have got to get some vittles. I need, I lost my freezer, Chappelle. It just stopped working. And I lost all the food in the freezer. I'm just sick about that because, during the pandemic, I was stacking up, right? And so, I have to get some mixed greens with ham hocks from you, like, soon. Okay, I put my order in. There we go.
Yes, Santita, we are open and available to take that order for you. And whatever it is that you need, whether it's greens, mac and cheese, mozzarella, chicken, ribs, ham, whatever it is that you need for your holiday or your catering needs, don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We're also doing trunk parties as well as also finishing up some last-minute graduation parties as well. And we're still doing weddings. We are still doing full catering and everything that you would need. We're doing sweet tables, custom name tables, as well as water bottles, sweet tables. Whatever it is that you need, don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you. Thank you so much, Santita.
Absolutely. Blessings to you, Chaparral. Celebrations by us. .org. I hope you'll meet me today at 12 o'clock at the Women's Luncheon at the South Shore Cultural Center at 71st and South Shore Drive. Yes, we're closing out the convention today. What a magnificent convention it's been. Thanks to you and thank you. Hope you are voting on June 28th, everybody, here in Chicago. We're still in the primary season. District of Columbia. You had some races in Alabama yesterday. Yeah, we're still voting even with the January 6th hearings, and as we're looking at Ukraine, as we're looking at so many things, the business of being American and being America is still open for business. It's still going. And we are in the midterm season. So we need to take apart, and you're going to hear me interview some candidates as we go forward, because I've reached out to so many. What are their positions? Just who are we voting for, right? I mean, just what do people see in Herschel Walker? What do people see in Raphael Warnock? How could it be that they would be in a tie, in a statistical dead heat, according to most polls in the state of Georgia? I kept saying to you all, when people kind of laughed about Herschel Walker entering the race, I said, oh, for their own set of reasons. With football being at the center of the culture, college football at that, at the center of the culture, particularly in the South, particularly in areas that are less urban. No shade. I mean, but when you go to Ann Arbor, football, Michigan, oh my gosh. Basketball, MSU, what? Oh my, who you got? I mean, that's big. They are bigger than pro sports. And then you got Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock, who shocked the world and became U.S. Senator. With all of his academic and social and political and cultural credentials. And, Herschel Walker has his cultural credentials too. But with all of that, I mean, he's not someone who is verbally engaging with you, right? And yet, and of course, a master of the language, unsurpassed, is Raphael Warnock. Yet they're tied. And how is it that Brian Kemp, who many people, you remember in 2018, we were all furious that he had purged so many of Stacey Abrams' voters, her margin of victory, from the voter rolls. And yet, and we said we would never forget that, yet she is trailing him in this race. Doesn't mean that she can't come from behind. But how is it that that is the way things are happening? And what are her politics? What are his politics? Of course, we have got the Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push with us, Robert Patillo, who hosts his own show on W8OK. He, down in Atlanta, Georgia, it's the iconic Black Talk radio station. You can hear them all over the world on Sunday from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. And of course, brilliant social scientist from the National Action Network and one of the founders of Operation Push, actually founding board member. Dr. D, we affectionately refer to him with all of his brilliance, Dwight McKee. Let me go to you, Robert Patillo. Let's start with the let's start with Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. How is it that they are tied right now?
Well, it's the power of celebrity at the end of the day. It's name recognition. Remember, Alabama just elected Tommy Tuberville, the Auburn head coach, United States Senate, versus Doug Jones, a federal prosecutor who prosecuted hate crimes in the South. Look at a state like Pennsylvania, where they nominated Dr. Oz to the Senate. This month ago, he was selling bootleg diet pills on his TV show. Now he's the Republican nominee for Senate. Ohio, J.D. Vance is the author of Hillbilly Elegy. He's a Republican nominee for Senate. So what Republicans have realized is to campaign to the America that we are, not the America that we should be. America has always existed as an intersection of celebrity culture versus competency. Look at Ronald Reagan. You can look down the line throughout the years that somebody has name recognition, somebody's well known by the public. Republicans feel that they can control that person once they're in office. So it's more important for the party to simply have the numbers, and then they'll tell them how to vote, versus actually putting people there who can competently execute the office of a United States senator.
What about who is Herschel Walker? I mean, because he has a record that is troublesome. I think, to put it mildly. I mean, and this is not to gossip, but he has personal tribulations, of course, that might drive someone else out of the race. How is he able to hold on? How is he able to grow in popularity? And what is his appeal, particularly to white voters?
Well, he comes off as the affable, kind of non-confrontational, very friendly type of African American that they like to imagine in much of their literature. If you look at most antebellum literature, there was always, a house servant that was affable and very loving of his position, and didn't make them feel bad about things. And that's very much the role that Herschel Walker plays. Herschel Walker's resume will be disqualifying for literally any other human being that did not bring a national championship to the University of Georgia 40 years ago. He has multiple allegations of stalking women, multiple allegations of domestic violence. I think now we're up to 3 or 4 children out of wedlock running as a Christian conservative. He claimed that he was a member of law enforcement. He wasn't. He claimed he was a member of an FBI agent. He was not. He claimed to be the largest business or black upholstery business owner in the state. He wasn't. The list goes on and on. But because he has that name recognition as being a Georgia running back, even though he hasn't lived in the state of Georgia for the last 20 plus years, he's lived in Texas. Republicans believe that because he's so easily controlled, and all they're really doing is running on the legacy of him as a running back from the University of Georgia in the early 1980s, that will be enough to get him across the finish line. And just judging by Tommy Tuberville, they have a chance of that being true.
Well, then what about Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp? One would think that, many of us walked out of 2018 infuriated by her loss, because we felt that it was unfair. We knew that as Secretary of State, Brian Kemp, who saw this insurgent candidate, not really as much of an insurgent as people think, because she really is a political insider. But that having been said, breaking the phenotypic, the color barrier, is still a radical move in the United States. He's leading. I mean, even as he bled so many votes from her, what is he doing right, and why is she trailing, in your estimation?
Well, a couple reasons. For Kemp, primarily, we have to remember that he ain't done a bad job as governor. Like him or dislike him from a political party point of view, just look at the things that he signed into law. He signed in the repeal of the Georgia the Citizens Arrest Bill. That would be a bill that questioned the Ahmaud Arbery killing that went back to the Civil War that allowed an individual or any white individual, for example, to detain an African American just on suspicion that they committed a crime. He repealed that. Brian Kemp also signed into law the new police bill that says that if there's a mental health crisis, a mental health professional has to respond with law enforcement in order to try to bring down those negative interactions that lead to police shootings. That's something the Black community has really pushed for. If you look at economic development, he brought a green energy company, Rivian Automotive, to the state of Georgia, with his policy. So the things that he's actually done haven't been terrible. So you're going to have to beat him. You can't simply count on, a crowd full of people trying to drum him out of office. I think the Abrams campaign, I think I said this on Fox a few weeks ago, they're counting too much on outside consultants. They're counting on people from outside of the state of Georgia to tell them how to run a campaign in the state of Georgia. I think that's shown itself in some of the clunky messaging that we've seen throughout the campaign. I think you got to, in the next 140 days, you got to hit those 159 counties that exist in the state. You have to re-engage Black men into the electoral process, many of which on the Democratic side feel that they are not being heard and also that they're not being respected. You have to put forward a very bold agenda with solutions to problems, because I think in many ways Abrams is almost running as if she's an incumbent in this race, not the insurgent that has to come for a little bit more aggression. So there's still 140 days out. Usually these races don't really kick up till after Labor Day. But in the new condensed political cycle that we're in, I think that both the Warnock and the Abrams campaign could use a little pep in their step when it comes to engaging the grassroots around the state.
Everybody, I think, these races have national implications, Attorney Darrell Jones. And so that's why I wanted to ask him about the Warnock-Walker race, about the Kemp Abrams race, because, these races could inspire a lot of voter registration, I think, on both sides. I mean, what are you thinking about these races I know I'm an outsider to Georgia, but when I read that Stacey Abrams is trailing Brian Kemp, it's not an insurmountable amount. But it's like, well, wait a minute. Don't you all remember 2018? And then Herschel Walker, you're tied with Raphael Warnock. Huh? What do you make of that?
Well, Santita, good morning. With the Raphael Warnock scenario, it was always anticipated that he was going to have a very tough run at it after his 2-year period was up and he was up for the re-election. So we recognized that was going to be tough. And part of the reason we recognized that was going to be tough wasn't because, of course, we didn't anticipate the star power of Herschel Walker being in the race, but we did anticipate that in the state of Georgia, that it is a very difficult state for Democrats to win it. And so for Raphael Warnock to be able to retain that seat was going to be a challenge. It was understood from the very beginning that was going to be a tough challenge. And we got to also remember that, it's tough to say right now if the state of Georgia is going to have it, and certainly Robert Patillo is in a much better position to speak to this, whether the turnout is going to be as great as it has been previously. And they have the major reasons to encourage voters to come out with regards to the candidates that are there. But the question is, what will that turnout be? And when you see a race such as the Warnock-Walker race, which is extremely close, it's going to come out to voter turnout. Can they get their base out? Can they mobilize their forces? For Warnock, the question will be, will the blacks come out? Will the Latinos come out? Will the community of color come out? Will the young voters come out? Have they been inspired to come out and participate? And it's going to have all kinds of implications. This is why when a particular party wants to get things done during the year, it becomes so important. One of the things that was moving many of the young African-American voters and voters of color in Georgia was the death of Ahmaud Arbery. It was everything that was happening, that Rashard Brooks was everything that was happening down in Georgia that was motivating them. Because when we were meeting with these young voters, the one reason they said they were going to vote was because of Ahmaud Arbery, because they knew the wrongfulness of what was going on They recognized what was happening with George Floyd. They wanted accountability. They wanted correction in policing. They wanted to have a more equal and just society. And the question is, once they came out and they had control of the Senate, Slim Margin had control of the Senate, had control of the presidency, was there a deliverance? Did they receive the value of their investment? And that became the question as to whether or not they're going to turn back out. So we have to be certain that, in races like this, that what's going to turn their base back out are the deliverables. Did you deliver? What are you going to do? What's going to be the message? So that's what I think we're saying with regards to part of the reasoning that the Warnock-Walker race is so close. Broward hit it right on the head that when you're running against an icon, a sports icon in the state of Georgia, that it's going to be extremely difficult because you have to remember, while we are, the inside the political circle type folks and will evaluate and read everything, the general person, the general public down there isn't doing that. They say, Herschel Walker, there's got to be a great guy. That's it. And they're gone. They're not going to go and do the research and the reading and all the other stuff that comes with it. So they don't know all the negatives and problematic things that have been laid out. They're going to say, I know this guy. He's good. That, I think, is how you find ourselves in the position where we are now with this with the race for the Senate there in Georgia.
Absolutely, because it comes down to likability. That's how people have legs in media. It's likability. Sometimes people don't hear what you say, don't care what you say, don't care what you think, Aaron. It's likability. And likability increases people's trust in you. If you could sit down with Stacey Abrams in particular, because this is really your wheelhouse. We're 140 odd days out, but still, and you don't want to surge too quickly, right? In a couple minutes, what would you advise her to do?
Well, good morning, Santita. And I will just say a lot of what I'm going to say I heard because of Attorney Daryl Jones's amazing voting rights panel at the Rainbow Push Convention, where we heard folks from Georgia, like Miss LaTosha Brown, right? Like Barbara Arnwine, and people like Daryl, who really are doing the deep organizing work that we all know is the magic to turn this around. And as you said, Santita, the name recognition situation is tough on both counts, right? You have an incumbent governor who in many ways stood up to the more evil elements of the Republican Party when you look at it at a national level. So he's been one of the Republicans to kind of frame himself in this responsible dad moment, right? And has done some trustworthy things. So in that, you're running against a lot of name recognition power in the incumbent state, in a state that has not traditionally been welcoming to statewide Democrats, right? So you have to get back to your base. And the more you motivate the base, as we know, you talk to your cousin, you talk to your aunt, you talk to your brother, you talk to the folks that you work with, you talk to the people at your senior home or your church or your art class. You speak to your community when you're inspired about something. And what we heard and what we all know as community organizers, and I think all of us are community organizers at heart, we understand that connection, as Ms. LaTosha Brown educated us on and reminded us on, it's about people power and it's about ownership of themselves and their vision for their future and not the system, right? We can't look at it as we voted in one Senate race and that's transactional and we expect everything. We see that the system is rigged against those progressive ideals and it's unfortunately taking a lot longer than we want. But if we don't have people like Reverend Raphael Warnock in the Senate, we aren't getting those floor speeches that are inspiring folks to change their mind, to get activated within that community. We need people like him there for longer than 2 years, and that means we can't continue a transactional relationship with our power. And so I think what they can do is really double down on utilizing their data, their organizing groups from the last time, which were very invigorated, have a lot of national support, and frankly have the thing you need most in campaigns, unfortunately, which is money. So I think they should spend that on real grassroots organizing and be able to get their base turned out, right? Get them excited again. And
Absolutely.
that was activated in Georgia before. It's possible again, even in low turnout. But in that time, we're going to have Roe v. Wade overturned, right? That is going to activate women and has been the issue that I've heard on the phones with women in this election. They're angry, they're scared, they're frustrated. They have daughters that they realize are going to be raised in a country that is less progressive than the one that they anticipated, right? This is going to be a big deal. So I think you're going to see a big surge in the participation in campaigns by women, not just voting, right? These are the women that organize. These are the ladies that are up on Saturday at 7 a.m. knocking on doors over and over again. And these women are going to, I think, have to come back to the front lines and get serious.
Absolutely.
So I think we can't underestimate the impact of that.
Absolutely. Dwight, I've got about 30 seconds before we go. Well, when we get back, I want you to react to that as we talk about what we saw at the January 6th hearings, because you have so much experience organizing. As a little girl, and you were a teenager and a young adult, we used to knock on the doors, literally. Retail politics, I grew up in that. And it's retail public service, getting people registered to vote, running people for office. Whatever the office was, that is what we would do in the snow, in the sleet, absolutely in the hail. You just went out and did it. And that's how you win elections now. I mean, I appreciate cyberspace, but I do know you have to get into the people space and see and touch and feel people in order for you to increase voter turnout. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 763-WCPT. Let's talk about Shay Moss and Lady Ruby, her mother, in particular. These women who were attacked, they were welfare queened, if you will. What did President Trump say about Lady Ruby, this independent business owner? Well, she's a hustler, really. Besmirching her character. And she is suing Rudy Giuliani as we speak, and the One America Network. She's suing them, and she should. These people have tried to destroy their credibility. And why were they not given police protection? Why not? I mean, the Democrats and the Republicans should have done that. Just as she said, look, Donald Trump was my president, whether I voted for him or not. You're the president of of the United States, which includes everyone in it. But why wasn't she offered security? I don't understand that. Perhaps you do. Call me at 773-763-9278. Back in just a minute on the Santita Jackson Show. Okay, people, that was great. Thank you. I think we're going to have to explore in greater detail all these people who run for these offices. Thank you, Robert. And everybody. Because I think we make a lot of presumptions about people being progressive and whatnot, just because they are black or women or whatever, and that's not true. And I just think that we need to know, so you know how to deal with people once they get into office. That's very, very important. So, but do you think she'll be able to come from behind?
It's going to depend on the campaign if she decides she wants to run. Right now, the issues that she's running on are things that are particularly resonating in the current media cycle. It's as if she's running a different campaign than the one that everyone else is running. But there's plenty of time to pivot. It's just a question of whether or not these campaigns ask for them to do so.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, okay. And Dwight, you can weigh in on that. And then we will get right back to all of this. Okay. All right.
How you doing, Robert? Well, thank you once again yesterday. Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Okay. Now, Daryl, did you get out of Chicago?
I did. I took a 9 o'clock flight last night.
Oh, I wish you would let me know. My goodness, I didn't know you were leaving. I didn't know. I thought you were leaving today.
Yeah, that was my original plan, but one of the judges had a different thought.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Well, look, you call me later.
Okay.
Call me later. I thought I was going to get a chance to see you today, but just call me later. After the women's luncheon, I'm running Aaron over to Jonathan's office. So I might not even stay there till the end. I need to, it's the last couple of days. Gotta get on out of here. So that's where I am. How's Dahlia doing? I need to get her on before the primary.
Yeah, she must. She's, it was her dad's birthday this week, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
And so she was feeling a lot of gratitude for her community and her family, and it's just hustling these last 7 days, as you said. Primary season is a different animal, and we see a really low turnout, which can go both ways, right? It's just kind of an is what it is, but you just need to turn your base out. That's the most important thing. The turnout can be low if your people are ready.
Well, you know what?
We want, but it's really difficult to get people out. So we're hoping that people are, going to turn in more ballots and GOP your election day, as you know. So.
Do me a favor, and would you reach out to her on my behalf when you get off the air? Reach out to Myra, and just ask her if I can get her on sometime before Tuesday or by Tuesday. Because she was a little under the weather, because she was going to be on last week, so I understood that, and I just want to get her on at least one more time.
I agree. Thank you, Santita. I believe that's fair.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you, Jewel. Jonathan Jackson for Congress. That's right. Pushing for him, but I'm hoping to have Jackie Collins, State Senator Jackie Collins, on. I'm going to reach back out to her people. We're trying to work that out. We will work that out. I reached out to her at the beginning of the campaign. Those people who I had immediate access to, I reached out to them at the beginning of the campaigns, and just as things were beginning to move forward, really, which is not at the beginning, because I wanted them to know that they had a home on this show. Yes, my brother's running. Initially, he was not. And initially, Alderman Pat Dowell was running for Secretary of State. And then when Bobby Rush, the congressman from the 1st Congressional District, said that he would not run again, she pivoted, which, I can understand running against Alexi Janulius would be kind of daunting, as he has a lot of money. But I know Alexi like him. That having been said, but she decided to get out of that race and get into this one. And State Senator Jackie Collins has served the South Side of Chicago with distinction for many, many decades. And we just love her. But I reached out to all of them, but I'm glad they finally reached back, because I just felt that it was fair. I reached out to Mr. Swain. I reached out. It's interesting. They don't really have campaign offices the way they used to, Aaron. I mean, it's like you do a lot of virtual reaching and touching, which I cannot stand.
Yeah,
I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
can I just call somebody?
In that world, especially with the pandemic, and when you see,
it does not work. No, it doesn't work. You go by some of these offices. Nobody's at the office. I'm like, what is this? How are you running for office and no one's in your office? What is that? I'm sorry.
Well, I know there's really as many offices, and she has ones in the suburbs, which has 1 minute of offices in every district.
But I'm talking about some that I'm seeing here.
That outreach and availability is important.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I really don't.
Still no Mrs. Perryman.
Okay, we'll let her go. I'll see her later on. Okay.
Would you also like me to play that last clip coming into this?
The first one that you played.
The
first one?
That was great because it really took us through the story.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. That was a great clip you pulled together. Great clip.
Sounds good. Thank you. We're coming up in 15 seconds here.
Fantastic.
I've lost my name and I've lost my reputation. I've lost my sense of security, all because a group of people, starting with number 45 and his ally, Rudy Giuliani, decided to scapegoat me and my daughter, Shay, to push their own lies about how the presidential election was stolen. There is nowhere I feel safe. Nowhere. Do you know how it feels to have the President of the United States to target you? The President of the United States is supposed to represent every American, not to target one. But he targeted me, Lady Ruby, a small business owner, a mother, a proud American citizen who stand up to help Fulton County run an election in the middle of the pandemic. Change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Oh, and hate the paper of the country. Save the children, we can't wait to change the world.
Woo. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Heard Lady Ruby, Mrs. Ruby Moore, and Shay Moss, these Georgia election workers who were targeted by President Trump, Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and their supporters as they stood in the gap and helped us to vote safely. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think about what they have endured. Call me at 773-763-9278. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, and my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please go there and like and subscribe, and everybody like the show and forward it, pass it along, share it with at least one person, everybody who's watching today, and tell people about us. And please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That's my official Facebook page. That's the only one I can speak for. The only one. So please become a part of that. What about the harassment that they in particular, because these are average citizens, they're not elected officials. They're not secretaries of state of Arizona and Georgia who can summon security at their will. They couldn't do that. And no one thought to assign security to them. The FBI told them that they needed to get away from their home. And in fact, Shay Moss was threatened by someone who said to her, "You need to be glad that it's 2020 and not 1920. Them's Luncheon words, everybody." That's what that is. So why were they not provided security? By the U.S. Department of Justice? By the police department in their locality? I mean, what happened? There's a real breakdown here. And how is it that people felt that they had the right to perform a citizen's arrest on these folks? It's sounding very Breonna Taylor to me. Except these were not the police. How did that happen? And oh my goodness, I'm so sorry that they experienced what those of us in the civil rights community have been experiencing for decades. I'm sorry that you felt the weight of the presidency on your neck, but that is what happened with Dr. King. You were in good company. When he said no to the war, LBJ turned his back on him and ostensibly just let Herbert Hoover have his way, who had been harassing him for years, tried to blackmail him out of the movement. Don't act like government harassment from the highest places is something that does not happen on a regular. Let's get to it, everybody. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. I want to hear your thoughts today. I want to hear your thoughts. And James, why don't you call in instead of trolling everybody on my chat line? Just call in, because no one's going to pay attention to you unless you man up and call in. And yes, I'm saying that, because we can disagree without being disagreeable. But just shooting out these words, it's cowardly to me. Now, you just stand up and do what you're going to do. Stand up the way these people who used to point guns at my father used to do, when I have to sit there and say nothing and look around to make sure, as my mother said, that she had a witness if anything happened to him. Now, you step forward and you call us and tell us why you disagree with what we're saying. That, or be quiet. No, you just keep on talking, but be very clear that that's not something that I can respect. If you disagree with me, come to me and tell me that. But to hide in the shadows, to lurk in the shadows, please. That is not what adults do. I'm Santita Jackson. Let's get to it, everybody. I hope to see you at the Rainbow Push Women's Luncheon today at 12 o'clock at 71st and South Shore Drive at the South Shore Cultural Center. We've had a wonderful convention kicked off by Secretary Pete Buttigieg and of course, Attorney Darrell Jones and Barbara Arnwine and Latasha Brown and Erin Connolly. Of course, she's one of the conveners of the Women's Luncheon. So many people have come together. We've had a great time, thanks to you, Stanley Davis. It was great seeing you yesterday at the Clergy Luncheon, and the head of the Children's Defense Fund. What a sermon he gave yesterday. He blessed us, everybody. For those of you who were not there, you need to call Rainbow Push so you can get a load of his remarks, because they were something else. Everybody, in Chicago, we have a high of 82 degrees today. Minneapolis, 86 degrees, sunny. The Dow closed up 641 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed up 270 points, and the S&P 500 closed up 89 points. In Major League Baseball, the White Sox 7, the Blue Jays 6. The Cubs, well, they fell to the Pirates. The Pirates 7, the Cubs 1, and the Guardians bested the Twins by a run, everybody, 6-5. Tonight, we're going to see someone get a little closer or maybe a little further away from that Stanley Cup. Everybody, the Avalanche will be playing the Lightning tonight. In the WNBA, Chicago and Minneapolis will triumph with the Lynx 84, the Mercury 71, and the Sky 104, and the Aces 95, everybody. Oh boy, what about these? You still have primaries, everybody. In the District of Columbia, we had some races in Alabama, in Georgia, in Virginia. What happened? Well, one of President Trump's designated candidates won. Representative Mo Brooks, actually he lost, but the person who President Trump ended up tapping, Katie Britt, is now the Republican nominee from the great state of Alabama. He had initially endorsed Representative Mo Brooks, but he withdrew his support when Representative Brooks in March made comments urging President Trump's supporters to move past the 2020 election. The Senate on Tuesday cast a key vote to advance newly released bipartisan gun safety legislation, a major step toward moving the bill forward as lawmakers face pressure to respond to the recent string of mass shootings, although many progressives say there's not enough in this bill, and now the AR-15 has been remodeled. That's right. It is now a pistol, everybody. So you can actually put it in your pocket, an AR-15. You cannot make this stuff up. Pray for the people of Afghanistan today, as they had an earthquake that killed 900 people, magnitude of 6.1, with an epicenter near the nation's border with Pakistan. God bless them, everybody. You know, we've been arguing for financial freedom on the Santita Jackson Show. That's why we want you to reach out to Team Hochberg and give them a call at 855-56-DAVID, or visit them at 56david.com, 855-56-DAVID, or 56david.com. Get a free consultation. Believe me, they've heard it all. If you don't have credit, if you've had a bankruptcy, if you need to build your credit, I don't care what your age, if you need to purchase a new home, if you think purchasing a new home is beyond your grasp, if you need to refinance the home that you're in, if you need to secure a VA loan, if you want to find out what is this thing called a reverse mortgage, call Team Hochberg and be honest with them about what you're going through. If you have massive credit card debt, talk to them. If you can't get a credit card, talk to them. Pete who posted a 5-star Google review, said, "What a great lender Team Hochberg is. They gave us great advice on several radio stations. It sounded too good to be true," he said. "His team is amazing, is amazing. He listened to David Hochberg on this station, and he wanted to give a shout out to his team. He wants to tell everyone about his great experience because he was struggling financially. He needed to cash out and refinance. And everyone kept telling him no until he went to Team Hochberg. So read over 200 5-star reviews in Google. Just put Team Hochberg, Hocberg. You should always review people. And find out about all of these wonderful testimonials that people have. Outstanding customer service is their brand, and thousands of WCPT listeners have been helped by their great work. Call them at 855-56-DAVID or visit them at 56david.com. What do you all make of what you heard yesterday? What do you make of the fact that Shay Moss, this young black woman, and her mother, Lady Ruby Moore, they didn't get any security. They were just left out there. They said, wait a minute, we have the President of the United States coming after us and his people. You can't make this stuff up. And so I want to just go around everyone and tell us what you thought of the thought of that. The thought of that. Those were, like, to me, the standouts. Of course, the secretaries of state, particularly the Secretary of the State of Arizona, who lost his daughter right after January 6th, God bless. Of course, he was under tremendous pressure, and he's a Trump man. He was under tremendous pressure from President Trump to throw out the electors, to throw out the will of the people. He said, I can't do that. Now, I support you, but I'm not going to do that. Wow. So what do you make of all of this? What do you make of particularly the welfare queening of these black women? There's no other way to put it, everybody. They're hustlers. That's what President Trump called them. Hustlers. And using the power of his voice, you have to be very careful as a leader. He used his voice, which has so much power. And these women could have been killed. People walked in, people came to their home and performed a citizen's arrest. Now, let's be colloquial about it. Let's be real about this, Dwight McKee, as we're joined by Dwight McKee and attorney Daryl Jones and attorney Robert Patillo and attorney Erin Connolly. When you see all these white people looking official, and all they have to do is be white to look official, when they show up at your door, you go, well, in my family, we go, please, what do you want? But you can imagine how these women must have felt, Dwight McKee.
Well, cool as it sounds, and I don't mean to sound cool, but welcome to the big league. I mean, and to talk about that democracy is not it's a contact sport. And when you talk about power, which is at the root of voting and democracy, you're talking about people who are willing to risk their lives and your life for the sake of power. And that it is hardball. It's people that have given their lives for the last 200-300 years for the right to vote, for the right to be included, for the right to have equity. And your life, if you are playing at that level, is not going to be any different. Fannie Lou Hamer, who this lady reminds me of in terms of, gender and age and commitment, she just rolled up her sleeves and said, bring it.
That's right.
And whatever you bring to me, I'm going to bring back to you. And we playing hardball. And in hardball, sometimes there's strikes, sometimes there's curves, sometimes they throw the ball at your head. But it's the big league, and that's how the game is played. And so I feel for the lady, and I hope she's able to get protection, and I hope she's able to protect the family. But I don't think this may not be the right occupation for her, because this is going to get deeper and worse, y'all. And this next election they're talking about bringing all the Republican overseers to the polls themselves and to stand there and watch the voters and to oversee the process. And if you're not prepared for that, you probably don't need to show up, because that's going to be a real challenge to the process. And it's going to take a certain kind of personality and a certain kind of character. I've always been a great admirer of your mother, Santita, because she knew when she married your father what she was getting into. And her attitude was always, yeah, I know this is a tough world, but so be it, bring it.
That's my mama.
And if we need to take it to the streets, let's take it to the streets.
Absolutely.
Coretta that is that I know my husband may not come home tomorrow, but this is what I signed up for. And it's the nature of the beast.
Absolutely.
And so I say with great resolution, bring it. And I think that has to be the attitude of those who decided to get involved in this fight.
Oh, absolutely, Dwight. Because look, when they came for my brother, Jesse was the second or third biggest vote getter in all of Congress. And he was in line to become one of the most powerful men in Congress. And then suddenly he's got problems. And there's someone who has 4 times, literally, the financial problems that leadership in the House protected. Okay? And so when people say, oh, I knew your mother's so sad. No, my mother was mad as hell. Be very clear. She said, we're in this. And it's a funny thing that we can have the Rockefellers and the Bushes and all of these scions. I mean, they pass their power on to their children, but somehow or another, the freedom fighters' children get stopped. It has come to my attention, Dwight, that Medgar Evers' first child, I don't think he made it to 50. I don't think Yolanda King made it much past 50. You see what's happened to Malcolm X's children. My mother said, I almost got y'all through. Because somehow or another, I don't know what it is. And like you said, welcome to the big leagues. Because Robert Patillo, when you get in the big leagues, this is what happens. This is power, Robert Patillo.
You're absolutely correct. I tell candidates all the time when I consult with them, you can't throw the same pitches in the general election that you were throwing during the primary, during the preseason. You're talking to an entirely different base. You're talking to an entirely different electorate. So let's say you came all the way through the ranks throwing nothing but a slider. Okay, well now you got to get a curveball, you got to get a fastball, you got to get yourself a changeup. Might have a little knuckleball here and there depending on how the game is going. And the fact that they haven't been agile enough to move on their toes, I think is concerning. And going to the Georgia election workers, I think that those women, they have a civil suit that could rock the nation. For intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligence, defamation against President Trump directly. And given the testimony that we heard regarding his involvement, him mentioning their names on dozens of occasions, showing videos of his millions of followers, knowing fully well the entire time it to be false, the question wouldn't be whether or not they will win. The only question will be how much damages could they get. So I think it'll be very interesting to see if they pursue that route. And if so, that could be something. Imagine that there's 2 black women from Fulton County to bring down Trump when the DOJ, the Russians, Ukrainians, and everybody else can't do it.
What do you make of this, Darrell Jones, Attorney Jones? I got 2 minutes before we go to break.
I listened to Robert and I listened to Dwight McKee, and I agree wholeheartedly with the analysis. It's really concerning when we get to a day that election workers have to be concerned because of comments that are made by the president that are blind or implied or actual threats that will say this, is that we've got to double down and be certain that we protect our poll workers, be certain that we protect those that are trying to be certain that we have fair and free elections. We know very accurately right now, we know that as we go into this 2022 midterm election, that there are election detractors that are preparing to disrupt the elections, but only in black and brown polling places. They're training to do this. They're training.
Well, wait. But Daryl, stop right there. Because, I think that's part of the problem. Because I think we're a little removed from our freedom struggle. Remember, this is something you and Barbara Arnwine do day in, day out. Everybody on this panel, Aaron Connolly does this day in, day out. Dwight McKee's been doing this for decades. Robert Patillo, day in, day out. That having been said, I think I'm always surprised when we're surprised. I'm like, what do you think this is, really, Daryl? I mean, I don't think. I know you're not implying, and certainly I didn't infer that you thought that Dwight was being callous. But I'm like, honey, what do you think voting is about? You think these people are not going to come for you? Really? The last 30 seconds belong to you before we go to breakdown.
You're absolutely right. We've got to anticipate the struggle that's going to be there. We know that they're bringing guns to polling places. We know they're trying to intimidate black and brown voters that are out there. But we have to stand in the ready. We cannot say, let's not go because we're afraid. We've got to straighten up our backs and go and vote. We've got to be certain we get the representatives in place to be able to have the opportunity to come back and secure those voting places. If there are issues that are there, it's our representatives that can put in place those laws to be certain that those places that we go to vote are secure. That's what we've got to do. And we've got to have that courage to be able to stand up and do it. We've got to go and cast those ballots, be registered, check your status, do everything you can, because we need to get out there and be certain that we keep this country, our country, and representing our interests. That's the only way to do it, Santita. So, kudos to everyone that stands up to go to vote. Get out there and do it. Get it done.
Absolutely. And just know, this is a fight, everybody. It's a fight. Now, I still think that they should have been provided security. And I think that the Democratic Party should have demanded it. Should it be a partisan issue? No. But anytime these people are threatened over a presidential election, they should have been protected. They were not. That, for me, is problematic. But it's also problematic that we are, on one level, are not ready for battle. This vote is a real serious thing, everybody. It's serious. Power is serious. Maybe there's a lot about power we don't really understand. We were in slavery longer than we've been free. Well, here we are, though. As Public Enemy said, welcome to the Terror Dome. This is where we are. This is it. This is power. And people fight to the death for it. And I'm a nonviolent woman. I don't believe anyone should die over this. I don't, but people do. Sadly, people get killed over it. And they got a chance. Lady Ruby Moss and Shay, Ruby Moore and Shay Moss got a chance to see it. Wow. But what are we going to do? Back in just a minute. Oh. Well, Dwight.
Okay, when we come back from break,
yes.
Somehow your outro music got deleted out of this playlist, so I'm going to go find it in the computer in the back studio and see if I can reload it in here.
Okay. All right, bless your heart. I'm going to be sending you another song, too. Mm-hmm. Okay, you want to keep talking. Daryl, what time do you have to get out, hon? Because I want to make sure you get a chance to say something before you get out. Because I know you got to go to court today, right?
Yes, I think once you come out of the break, I'm going to start getting into the courtroom.
Oh, okay. Oops. Well, then you know what? You can make your statement really quickly, and then we will let you go. I'm just sorry that you left. I didn't realize I thought you were going to be here. I really did. I thought you would be here.
That was my anticipation.
Okay, well, things happen. What'd you say? That was your anticipation? Yeah, well, call me later. Okay, everybody, here we go. All right, got my papers here. Here we go. Guys, I'm always trying to get something done over here. Mm-hmm. All right. I guess this. All right. Oh, you all can talk amongst yourselves. What time are you heading over there today, Aaron?
As soon as possible. I'm gonna get a few things ready and head over right after we're done here. Hopefully.
Okay. I'm getting some.
My friend, the Dr. Diane Berry, who I'd love for you to meet. She's a Egyptian surgeon and OB on the west side of Chicago and has a lot to say.
Okay. No, I would love to do that. I want to meet her early because I'm gonna kind of be in and out of there because I've got to run over to my brother's office. We're in the last few minutes of this thing, so I'm gonna.
TV.
Yeah, get out the vote. No,
TV.
you have not told a lie. Absolutely. So there's some things that need to happen here, and that is what we are doing. But I'm trying to get the audio together. So we've been able to get some equipment that might actually enable me to be back up on timeline. Hello, let's just hope and pray that this works today.
Yeah.
So I've got the engineer's on his way over right after my show. So I've got to do that first. Yep, got to do that first.
Okay, 1 minute.
Okay, fantastic. Were you able to get behind the music?
Yeah, I have a file here.
Okay.
I'm going to head to the back studio and make sure it's the right sound. I think it is.
Okay.
I think we're fine. But I just want to double check as soon as we get out of this break.
Well, just coming with some more audio and then we're good. Wow.
Okay, we've got 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the issue is. All of a sudden it's saying in the playlist file not found, so I'm going to have to hide it, reload it, I guess.
Well, honey, it's something called Ghosts in the Machine. How about that? The Police. This kind of predates you.
So.
One of my favorite groups, the Police. Did that.
All right, back in 5.
Okay.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Callers, I'm going to come to you. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT, and of course meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson and Friends page and on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. That's where most everybody is right now. So I'm so glad that you're there. And please continue to like and subscribe. And everybody who's watching today, please like and share. I keep hearing from so many people. I'm like, and the numbers aren't showing up here, but I'm here. I bumped into so many people who say I watch every morning. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. But let me know. Daryl Jones, attorney Daryl Jones, before I go to the callers, I know you've got to step into court because you do have another child. What thought would you like to leave with us today?
Thank you, Santita. And, the thought that I would like to leave with everyone today is certainly to go get out and vote. Check on your voter registration status. Go to vote.org so that you know that your status is in place. We can change everything when we exercise that right to vote. When it comes to moving more, when it comes to all the election detractors that are going to be out there, we're going to see a lot going on in this election with regards to people trying to disrupt what happens at the polls. But we've got to have that determination. We've got to have that focus to be certain that we get out there, we get our vote on, we do what we've got to do, and push our country to go in the direction that we want it to go to. It all depends on us. That's the message I want to get out there, Santita, and God bless you, and God bless the fight that we're in.
Oh, God bless you. It is a fight. It is a fight. Aaron Connolly, very quickly, about a minute before I go to these callers. What do you make of this fight? What do you make of what you heard from these workers yesterday?
Well, I think everything we've discussed is absolutely true. This is a tough business to be in, right? Democracy is not easy. It is a battle. But what I heard was something that I don't want the future of our democracy to be anymore. I don't want more of the good people that sign up to make sure that our elections are safe and fair and proper to be harassed. I don't want, we've all had our share in this of drama and threats and, disappointment and dealing with terrible, terrible things said by angry people and being in situations of fear. I don't want other women to suffer the way these women have suffered. And we certainly shouldn't have a powerful president of the United States, nor his famous attorney being able to defame these women and create a situation where their family members are living in fear. And this is a real thing. And we have choices to make in what our future is. And this should not be our future, right? Mm-hmm. And I hope that out of this, with this civil suit, with the reality that there is accountability on some level for this type of intentional infliction of emotional distress. As an attorney, I'm thinking it does meet these elements, which is a difficult element to meet. But they have incited a mob against these women for doing their jobs, and you cannot do this in our society. We should not condone this, and I hope it's not our future.
Well, it certainly has been our past. I should say we should not do this anymore, right? Because as they were describing what they were going through, I said, wow, I feel like this is the stuff that ran black folks out the South. I mean, because this is the kind of domestic terror that black people have lived with since we have been on these shores. Sadly, there's nothing new about any of this. Let me go to Stephanie from Kankakee. Stephanie, what's on your mind today?
Mine is all got to be turned back around to our policing issue. Because my nephew, he became a cop in Maywood out here. And he worked at Cook County Jail first. He said 4 things there, Tom, he said that is going to keep us at odds with the police department. The first thing they teach you is anybody in prison is still under slavery according to the Constitution. Mm-hmm. So don't treat them with respect. They get their slaves and they don't need rights. He said they say that to them. Secondly, he said they were told that you're the most important person. Don't shoot to wound, shoot to kill. Because everybody's your enemy. Look at them as your enemy. Don't look at them as somebody to serve or protect, but look at them as an enemy. He said, thirdly, they were taught that they're not there to serve and protect, but to keep law and order. And the only way to keep that law and order is to put the fear of God in the people in your community, so they will not. It's not a matter of respect. He said, God told him, it's a matter of fear. So if you do those 4 things, you're doing your job as a cop. Now, how can we have a relationship if this is what the cops are being taught? How can, the police, the same themselves and not save 19 babies? Because they were too busy saving their own skin. Why were they told that? Why were they taught that? So until we do this, we're going to have to find some way to deal with our policing. It's the same police that took over slavery, the same mentality, and we're going to have to confront whoever our new police chiefs are and demand that they change the training of the police department and how the police department look at and treat our community.
Okay. All right. That's something to think about. Let me go to you, Clarence. Clarence, what's on your mind today?
Well, I know a couple of things. And I was listening to your previous conversation, talking about Stacey Abrams. I think one of the issues, the problem that we have, is that all of our elected officials, appointed officials, are always very willing to subjugate those issues that are of significance or great importance, to Black people, particularly in relationship to removing the knee of oppression from our neck. And a good example of that would be Senator Clyburn, who killed the police reform bill. I mean, when he came out and said that he could support a bill that did not have implied immunity in it, there's no real value for the rest of the bill. We're so willing to forgive and to forget. In the case of Biden, the mass incarceration, he held that position up until I think a day or two before the election, the primary South Carolina. So as long as we allow other folks to control the political infrastructure that is responsible for getting out the vote, for making a contact, with the people, yes, Stacey Abrams, who should be a no-brainer and should draw out a massive turnout, she will always be vulnerable to a loss. We don't give our people a reason and motivation to get out and vote because they don't feel that the people that get in office are going to do their bidding. And in fact, they end up doing their own selfish bidding. And there are just too many examples of that circumstance that we can look at all across this nation.
I hear you. But the thing is, I think, I would tweak that, Clarence, because it's not that they're just doing their bidding. They're doing the bidding of the corporations. That's why I think you need to have publicly funded campaigns, right? And take these other monies out of politics. Until that happens, we have the system that we have. But these people understand power, they understand politics, and that's what we have to understand. We need to start having people drafts. Drafts from the people so that we have people who are running and who go into office and they are accountable to us, but then we have to fund them so that they can remain so. Because in order to be in politics, the way it's constructed, Clarence, because this is the way the game is constructed, I'm here to tell you have got to have money. And the fact is, what we don't do, we will invest personally on things that mean little to us in the long term. Invest in a candidate. Invest in your institutions. Invest in your community. Invest in the people who represent you. So that when they represent you, they represent you. Because guess what? Other people are going to invest in them, and they're going to represent them. Clarence. That's just, that's how the ball bounces. Huh?
Yeah, but that's no accountability.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that. But I'm saying that's how the ball bounces. We have to start putting money in politics ourselves, almost like tithing to your church. You got to start giving, and beat these corporations giving to candidates. We continue to want people. We cannot afford to be naive about how politics works. We can't. There's too much at stake. I'm just trying to share with you because I've been in the room. Okay, we have so much experience in this, and I just try to share with you what I know, what I learned, because we walked into politics very naive, on the presidential level at that. Like, oh wow, I didn't know it worked like this.
I think we're saying the same thing. I'm just saying.
We're not disagreeing. I was just adding to. Yeah. I'm just sharing. Like, wait a minute. No, thank you. But hey, I've been in the room. I see how it works. So I try to share with you. Hey, y'all, doesn't work quite this way. It works that way. And you need to start contributing to these campaigns. If you cannot give money, give time. You need to get involved. You need to be voting June 28th here in Illinois. Yes, Clarence, I'm going to have to let you go after this.
Okay, yes. But we have to hold them accountable. Clyburn said what he said. No one came out and jumped on him.
No, they supported him. They supported him. They supported him when he came after Bernie. They supported him when he sunk Bernie's campaign and supported Biden. Now I know Congressman Clyburn. My grandmother loved him. He's from South Carolina. My grandmama still lived in South Carolina. This is not personal for me. This is This is institutional. We were in South Carolina leading up to the primary, and when he endorsed Biden, which saved his campaign, because remember, up to that point, people were asking Biden to get out because he was awful. Kamala Harris had already dropped out. She'd already dropped out. Remember that? And when he came in, he really represented the party burning out the campaign, the most exciting candidate, the candidate who had tens of thousands of people at his rally. How are you not going to get behind someone who has that kind of energy? How do you do that? The Democratic Party does that over and over and over again, and we keep losing. Sooner or later, we end up losing. Boom. Mic drop on that. I've seen them do it. They could have worked with Jesse Jackson. They refused to. They could have worked with Bernie Sanders. They refused to. And look at what we've got. Trump on the march back into the White House if we're not careful. I'll tell you that. Because Democrats, what do they say? Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. They might not like President Trump. Liz Cheney voted with President Trump 90% of the time. All these people who are testifying now, they're almost all of them are Republicans. They all voted for Trump and supported him up to a point, because it's like, this could send me to prison. Don't make heroes out of these people. Liz Cheney's about to lose her seat. She is from an establishment Republican family. They could not stand Trump. Ugh. We need to understand Robert Patillo and Dwight McKee and Aaron. Robert, starting with you, we need to understand what this thing is really about. This is about power. And after they finish fighting with Trump, after they finish fighting with him, guess what? They're going to kiss and make up. I promise.
Yeah, people have to remember that on the macro level, Donald Trump had Hillary and Bill Clinton at his wedding. The people go to the same elite private schools for their children. They vacation in the same elite areas. They're not in the same level of combat, per se, when it comes to voting as we are on the ground level, where our lives are literally at stake. And we have to treat it as such. These corporations are not going here playing pity pat. One executive order might be the difference between going bankrupt and making $1 billion in profits. So these people are not in here playing pity pat. Elon Musk's entire fortune is built off of government contracts over the course of the last 20 years, both through electric cars and through his space ventures, even the Boring Company that he has started, Neuralink, Starlink, etc. So these people realize that when it comes down to politics, it answers that question of who gets what when. And for us, we have to address it in the same way. It doesn't matter if you like somebody. It doesn't matter if y'all get along. It doesn't matter about whether or not they're the prettiest or the nicest to you. You got to get people in there who can win. And as the caller said, you also have to make sure you hold them accountable, because otherwise you will be put to the side just like anybody else. You have to protest your own people as much as you protest anybody else. Look at what the MAGA movement does to quote-unquote Republicans in name only. They attack them more viciously than they attack Democrats, because they want to make sure that everybody's singing from the same sheet of music. And if somebody gets out of line, I'll run a David Perdue against you if you're Brian Kemp, even if he loses. I will run Herschel Walker. I will run a Dr. Oz, just to make sure you understand that somebody's always coming up from behind you. And the Democrats use a healthy dose of that.
And, and they're not playing. Let me say this to you, Mike. I hear you. You said, well, I've said it's not true. You don't need money in politics. You need strong leadership, and politicians are not leaders. I hear you up to a point. But Mike, get in a campaign and then talk to me. When you get in a campaign, you see people don't volunteer anymore. People barely volunteer to be soloists at church. You got to pay the soloists at church. If they're going to be a regular soloist, then they're going to be bad. Things have changed. People don't volunteer for anything anymore. Also, sometimes their needs are so great. People, $20 can be life or death. It can be meals for people. Oh, yeah. Folks are subsisting, not just living. So be real quick. Get involved in a campaign, and then you tell me what's not required in politics. Then that's when you talk to me, because I've been involved in too many of them. And as I've gotten older, I see there's more and more need. And Karen, I hear you, but let me tell you something. Bernie Sanders outdrew everybody. People can say they're not going to vote for him. A whole lot of other people felt very, very differently. When you have a candidate with that kind of energy, and I'm not just saying it because I supported him, but you can step back. I'm pragmatic in my politics. I saw the energy that people put into Trump. When I saw the energy that people put into Trump and the crowds he was drawing, I said, he's someone to watch. You don't have to like people. You need to study them, though. Study, look at the signs, read the tea leaves, for heaven's sake. Dwight McKee?
Well, for some reason we lost sight of the adage that Fred Douglass told us 150 years ago. And he knew what he was talking about. He said, power concedes nothing.
Nothing.
Fight. You may not get everything that you fight for, but you have to fight for everything you get. That's how this works. And he said they're coming out of slavery. And in the middle of a civil war. Mm-hmm. This is, again, not being pie. This is politics. Mm-hmm. And you really, really have to understand. I got arrested when I was 16 years old in the movement. And been fighting that fight ever since then. This is the Godfather say, these were the cards we were dealt, and these are the cards we have to deal with. And if you're not prepared for that, you're really in the wrong game. I think.
Look, everybody I know in this civil rights struggle, Robert Patillo and Aaron, came ready to die. That's how I grew up. Don't cry for me. It was painful and it was traumatizing. But every single day I didn't know and didn't think my father would get home at the end of the day. I was reading an article. They did this article on all these kids of well-known people who were in school in Washington, D.C., because a lot of well-known people are in D.C. and they have their kids in school there. And they featured, one of the persons they featured was my brother Jesse. He said, you don't feel quite the same way about rebelling against your father if every time you see him, you think it'll be the last time you see him. We grew up like that. And we had to be prepared. And Dwight, as you well know, our mother said to us, yeah, this is the price we're going to pay for freedom. And you're not going to be, but so you might be sad about it, but we must keep on fighting. And you must make it Jesse, Johnny, Yusuf, Jackie, Santita, because I can't let these people win. If you fail, if you get weak, if you falter and do not get up, then that means they have won. This is a fight to the finish. And Karen, respectfully, I disagree with you. I know a lot of people who would have voted for Bernie. And I know a lot of people who might have been on the fence about him if he had gotten a positive message from the Democratic Party. Instead of getting fought by the party, he could have been the nominee and he could have whipped Trump into submission. That was the only person Trump feared running against. Bernie Sanders. He didn't fear Biden. He didn't fear anybody. He feared Bernie because they were going after the same crowd. The people who are disenchanted, who are broken, who are tired. You can't talk to me about someone who can draw 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 people and say, oh, I don't know you. No, darling. No. And you don't get behind him? Oh, my goodness. No. It doesn't work like that. So, you know what? I have a minute for everybody before we go. It's been quite the engaging conversation. No. Look, Karen, I'm clear Biden won. And I'm clear that he is struggling right now. So I hear you. You don't need a message. I'm feeling you. I hear you. I'm just trying to tell you what I saw during this campaign, what I've seen through a whole lot of them. So Biden won. Nobody's arguing that point. I need him to act like he won and deliver and give me the deliverables that I asked for so he can stop having soft support in the Black community. It's softening. Read the tea leaves. Aaron, 1 minute, literally.
Well, I hope everyone comes out to the Rainbow Push Convention today. We're going to have a discussion at the Women's Luncheon about many of these topics and the special impact that all of these things have on women and our families and where we go next. And I think the important thing is we have choices, and those choices are coming up for us in Illinois on the 28th of June.
Yes.
So make sure you turn your ballot in. Make sure you make a plan to vote. It's Tuesday, June 28th is the primary, and we as Democrats have to show up and support the candidates that will fight for us, that
Absolutely.
represent this energy that you're talking about, Santita. And I think we know who those folks are in Illinois.
And the energy is out there. It is out there. It is out there. Robert Patillo, 1 minute.
Thank you so much. And I think that's what people have to understand, that politics is a full contact sport. The reason that when you go to any state capitol, county commission, city government, there's a line of lobbyists making six figures on the way out the door. It's because these people are playing a full contact sport. This is not silly pat. These people's entire forces, industries are on the line when it comes to votes on a single regulatory issue. So we have to treat it the same way. Don't just think the art of the moral universe is going to bend towards justice automatically. You got to reach up and grab that thing. And when it comes down to politics, we have to do exactly that if we want things to change. All
right, Dwight, I've got 30 seconds for you. I'm so sorry, but if you all stay with us on the YouTube channel, we're going to talk for about 2 more minutes, but I'm going to have to get off. Dwight McKee, 30 seconds.
Well, I think Robert said it all. It's a contact sport. If you want to play tag football, flag football, it's a lot different than playing tackle football. Tag football, you don't need a helmet. Tag football, you don't need shoulder pads. Or somebody will take a flag out your pocket. But in tackle football, you need a helmet, you need spikes, you need a shoulder pad. So it's a contact sport. And in politics, it's tackle football. And you're going to come to get hit and to hit. That's right. The nature of the game.
That's
and
right.
Again, if you're not prepared for it, go play flag football.
You know, I mean, on some level, let us not be shocked. It's sad that these women have been harassed in this way, but don't be shocked and don't be fooled. This is how this works. It's how it works, everybody. It's how it works. Now, I'm not saying that you need to respond in a violent way. You need to respond with the highest of principles. I believe in nonviolent resistance, and I believe you need to get involved. And don't be naive about what we're dealing with here. I love everybody. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show, God willing. And Karen, next time we should just call in. All this writing, girl, it's taking me away from what I got to do on the air right here. And I can't do that. So sometimes you need to call in, and then you can voice your opinion sometimes better than you can write them, or certainly better than I can read them on the air, because you emphasize what you want to emphasize. I love you, everybody. See you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Bye-bye. All right, anybody want to say anything else? Hey, everybody, I'm about to shut down the comments. Got to do that. But I hear you. But like I said, you know, what I'd like for you all to do more of is call in. Call in. I love the fact that you all converse here. But call in. And, you know, Karen, while you're getting ready for work, I'm so glad that you listen to us while you're getting ready for work. I totally relate. Put us on speaker and come close to the speaker like this and just say what you got to say. I know sometimes you're reacting in the moment, but it makes it very, very challenging. I cannot engage you as I'd like to. I can engage you more fully on the radio. That's just how that is. You all can engage each other, but maybe that's what you want. And however you do it, I'm totally with it. But everybody, Dwight, your closing thought.
I just made it. I think that I look at the Fannie Lou Hamers. I look at the Harry Tubmans. I look at the real freedom fighters and what they've gone through and what they had to deal with. And you can't even measure anything that we're dealing with compared to what they dealt with. And we have to maintain that attitude and keep that vigilance and that spirit. That's the spirit of our ancestors that we need to maintain and to keep, because it's that spirit that's gotten us this far. And that's the spirit that will lead us on.
Amen to that. Aaron Connolly?
think we have a lot to discuss today at the luncheon, and I think, when we talk about how far we've come as women, right, and where we want to go, and what I think these women deserve with regard to state protection, as you mentioned, and making sure that we're taking care of our officials that are on the front lines of our democracy, right? These are policy choices and funding choices that we can make. And based on what we've seen in the last few elections, election protection is life and death now, right? And it always has been to a certain extent. But in our modern era, we have not seen this type of potential threat to our folks and poll workers that are funded by the state. So I think as we look at our local elections and our county clerks and our secretary of state, when we vote, who is going to make sure that we have those protections in place and that our system and our democracy can be well-funded, well-organized, and have a sense of trust where things like this would be easily refuted, right? That we have to take responsibility for strengthening those systems moving forward.
Absolutely. Robert Patillo, are you still there?
I am eating. The only thing that I would add is just remember those that have an axiom from political science class from your first day in college that politics answers the question of who gets what when. And so when it comes to the question of am I going to do X, Y, Z for the Black community just because it's the right thing to do, or am I going to do something for the lobbyists that put millions of dollars into my campaign and into the super PAC that's supporting me, and also hired my son to be able to put on their board of directors, you start realizing why many politicians get into office and then seemingly forget about the community, because if you don't have money power, you got to have people power, and that people power has to be activated and keep them in line the entire time. That's how Trump was able to take over the Republican Party from the inside out, because he went after the people first, not after the donor class. And Democrats have to take a very similar spirit. He ran a master class on how to take over a political party, read the playbook, and do the same thing again. All the other side is just use it for good instead of to divide the nation.
Amen to that. I mean, look, when Reverend ran for president, when he ran, he had no money, but he had the people. But he had also been out here cultivating and working with people for more than 20 years at that time. There was no place, no hamlet, no town, no village, no city that Reverend had not been to, that he had not seen, touched, and felt, and been serving people. Since 1983, he'd been out there 20 years, and people trusted him. By this time, he was the leading Black spokesman in the United States of America and one of the leading freedom spokesmen in the world. That's why the campaign was covered all over the world, because of the stances he would take on South Africa, on the Middle East, and on and on and on and on it went. That having been said, if you want to be in politics today in America, it's money. It is. You got to have it. Poll workers have to be paid. If you want people to pass out flyers, all of that, it costs. It does. And unless you're in a campaign and really know how that works, I mean, it's like, don't play with me. This is how it works. And you have to, when you're in campaigns, you have to be all in. It takes all of that. You're going to put down a sign and then your opposition is going to pull it up. Trust me, they've been doing that to Jonathan all day long. And some of the people he's running against have been pulling up his signs. Then, you know what happens, Aaron and Robert and Dwight? We ordered 2,000 signs, but somehow or another we can only get 500 of them. These are people who do campaign stuff all day long. This has been happening to us all throughout the campaign. But yeah, Reverend Jonathan has continued to work, and in this field of 14, he's stood atop the polls, and that's a good thing. That having been said, this is the way it works, and it is a contact sport. And we can tell something's going on out there because of the way he is being attacked. Anytime Lynn Sweet writes an article on you, yes, and Lynn, you can watch this, and there it is. Yeah, they see something. Okay, I got it. They see someone who's going to go to Congress and fight. Yeah, I'm saying it. Because we know the deal. And what I know is that you can't just send someone to Congress and leave them uncovered. You must continue to support them. You must continue to vote. You must show up at their office. You must show up at other offices. You have to let people know where you stand. Jimmy Carter told my father, after he reluctantly fired Ambassador Andrew Young, he said, Jesse, I did not want to let him go. But if you look, he pulled out from out of his drawer all these telegrams. He said, now, if you look at the people who wanted him out, and if you look at all the people who did not fight for him to stay in, he said, you were among the few, the loudest and the boldest. He said, but you were outnumbered, at least on paper. So everybody, this is what you must do. You must do your part. You can't just leave this to everybody else. It's just like going to church. And you want to leave it to the preacher and his family to be the perfect people, and you can be a fool all day long. No. You must do your spiritual work too. How about that? The preacher's struggling himself. Most of their marriages don't even make it. Yeah, that's right. Clergy marriages have a very, very, very high rate of divorce. They are struggling too. So don't look to them for that. Listen to their message and keep it moving. Got it? I love you. I love you, everybody. Dwight, Robert, I'll see you shortly. Aaron, see you shortly. I love you, everybody. Mwah. See you tomorrow, hopefully. And tune into rainbowpush.org because they will be streaming the Women's Luncheon and the rest of our activities at the convention as we close out today. Love you, everybody. Make sure you vote June 28th. Early voting lasts until the 27th. Get out and vote. Go to vote.org. Make sure that you've not been purged from the voter rolls, and find out where you can actually vote, because we closed 73 polling places in Chicago. That impacts up to 120,000 voters. But if you go to vote.org, you can find out exactly where you can vote, aside from the super site in your neighborhood. Okay? Love you, everybody. See you tomorrow. Santita Jackson Show. I love you all.